What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another Yugi-Kaiba format video. Now, I've made a video about the sort of dark equipped tribal in the past, and, my version of the deck, I wasn't really happy with it. I didn't think it was that good, and so I only made one video on it, and then I sort of moved on to other decks and strategies. But in the comment section of that video, a lot of people had some great suggestions for different directions to take with the strategy. And one user in particular, Hexproof Project, actually came up with a deck list and posted in the YouTube comments. And I thought it looked really cool. And so I basically decided to give Dark Tribal another chance using basically their deck list. I made some very minor changes, which we talked a bit about the best ways to sort of optimize the deck, and so I made some sort of very minor changes. But I think this deck is a lot more all in on the sort of equip strategy, and so I'm not sure if it will win or not today, but at the very least, it will hopefully pull off actually managing to get to equip a sort of Dark Destruction to a Dark Monster. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's dive in to the deck breakdown. So Dark Tribal or Dark Equip is basically a strategy that attempts to leverage the power of the equip spell Sword of Dark Destruction. So Sword of Dark Destruction, when it's equipped to a Dark Monster, buffs that monster's attack by 400. So if you equip it to a Lodgin, it lets you get over 2k defenders and also other Lodgins. And if you equip it to one of the many 1600 attack dark monsters in the format, like Ryu Kitchen Powered and Man-Eating Treasure Chest, then it buffs them up to 2000, which can't get over most defenders, but can get over things like Lodgin or the other 1700 beaters. So that's the idea of this deck, and the goal is to get pretty aggro, overwhelm your opponent with your monsters and their buffs, and hopefully take a game or two off of that. So for the card by card breakdown, we have 3 Lodgin, just the best beater in the format at 1800, and a Dark Monster combo with Sword. And then we have 3 Battle Ox. Now, we're not playing 3 of the other 1700 beater, so this could easily be 3 Neo, and actually in Hexproof Project's original deck list, it was 3 Neo. But they said that, it was pretty interchangeable. You could use whichever 1700s you wanted to here. And I'm putting Battle Ox here just because in the case that you go up against a Field Spell Tribal deck that's playing like Wasteland, or not Wasteland, Sogen or Forest, then Battle Ox will get a buff from that, and Neo will not. Neo gets a buff from Yami, but if Yami's on the field, then all your monsters pretty much get buffs from it. So we're not too worried about the Yami matchup. We're more worried about the Forest or Sogen matchup, which doesn't come up often, to be fair. But if it ever does, then having Battle Ox in this slot is just slightly better. So that's why I chose to replace the Neos with Battle Oxes. Again, very minor change. This can easily be a Neo if you want. Or it could be a mix of the two 1700 beaters if you want some variety in the deck. We also have 3 Ryu Kitchen Powered, 3 Man-Eating Treasure Chest, the 1600 attack point beaters. And these are here because they combo with Sword of Dark Destruction to make them very powerful, but also because they're more bodies, and occasionally that's enough. If you've managed to clear most of your opponent's monsters, then a 1600 attack point monster on the field attacking in can whittle them down pretty quickly. So that's why we're playing 6 of these to have more monsters in the deck and also maximize our chances of actually pulling off Sword of Dark Destruction. We also have 3 Wall of Illusion. Now, this could easily just be a regular 2k defender like Giant Soldier of Stone. I think the reason we're playing Wall of Illusion is because, well, firstly, in some very niche scenarios, it can be equipped with Sword of Dark Destruction. So that's kind of neat. You're not going to do that often, but it can come up. So that's pretty cool. But more importantly, this clears away your opponent's monsters on the field. And we're playing Wicked Wormbeast to sort of combo with it. So if we can clear away an opponent's monster with Wall of Illusion, summon out Wicked Wormbeast, get in for some damage, that's pretty good. If we can't do that, then summoning out a 1600 to attack in is also pretty good. So we're playing this to sort of empty our opponent's board, get even more aggressive. And so I like it in here over like the 2K defenders. And we're also playing 2 Maneater Bug. These are just great removal. You could probably swap out one of the 1600 beaters for another Maneater Bug. It just depends on how aggro you want to go. I do like 2 here. I guess you could also just add a third and make the deck 41 cards, but you want to be as consistent as possible drawing into the Sword Fiend combo. So I'm okay with 2. I think it's not the worst thing to have 2 in the deck. You can add a third if you want to. And then for the spells, we have, of course, the limited spells, Change of Heart, Dark Hole, Monster Reborn, Pot of Greed, Raigeki, all insanely powerful, and especially good in an aggro deck like this. We have 3 Fissure to act as even more removal. We have 3 Sword of Direct Destruction to just combo as much as possible with our monsters. In the previous build of the deck that I had, I only had 2 of this, and I think that contributed to just not being able to pull off the combo as much and made the deck feel pretty bad. Here, hopefully, we'll be able to have the combo more online. And also having multiple of these equipped to a monster is not the worst. I mean, if they manage to clear the monster, then it feels pretty bad because you've invested 3 cards in it. But it can be good to, like, 2 Sword of Direct Destruction equipped to a Lodgin can get over a Summoned Skull. So, it's not the worst to draw multiples of these. And, of course, 2 Sword of Revealing Light. Great card in the format. Stalls for a bit longer to potentially draw into your combo. So, very useful in a deck like this. And then for the traps, we have 3 Reinforcements, 3 Trap Holes, 3 Wabokus. Just the standard trap lineup in an aggro deck. Reinforcements can be especially good in this deck at protecting your investment, as if you have like a Ryukishin equipped with a Sword of Direct Destruction, your opponent attacks in with like a Battle Ox, use the Reinforcements. You could use a Reinforcements of your own, so that way they're not taking out 2 of your cards. Trap Hole is, of course, great at removing threats on your opponent's turn. It can also be used to protect, like, your 1600 beaters. Waboku is great at protecting your monsters and your life points. Very useful in a deck like this. And for the side deck, we have 3 Trap Master to go against, decks relying on Ultimate Offering or the like. We have 3 Summon Skull, 1 Judgment, and 3 Soul Exchange to go into a more of a heavy soul control package. This is another minor change that I made. In their side deck, they had replaced these 2 with 2 Stop Defenses, which I think is also acceptable. They basically serve the same purpose. If you're going up against a stall deck, you want to have more ways to deal with that. I happen to like Soul Exchange and Another Tribute a bit better than Stop Defense because it's removal, it's guaranteed removal. Whereas if you just Stop Defense an opponent's monster, first of all, it could be a Maneater Bug, and that could pop one of your own monsters. Or, they could have Waboku, protect it, switch it back to defense the next turn. So, I like this because it's guaranteed removal. But it's perfectly reasonable if you want to change these out for some Stop Defenses. In fact, in the comment thread, we actually discussed whether we wanted to include Stop Defenses in the main deck, because this deck can struggle against 2K defenders, Sword plus a 1600 buffs it up to 2K, but that can't deal with a 2K defender. So, Stop Defenses in the main deck could be a good idea. It could be a direction to experiment with the deck if you so wish. But here I'm just going with this main deck that they proposed, so I want to test this out before trying to tinker with it a bit more. And we also have 2 Card Destruction to deal with Exodia, and also 2 Dispel. So the reason why we're running 2 Dispel, I don't normally run Dispels in side decks because I think it's kind of hit or miss against stall, because it can be very good at popping a Swords, but oftentimes you don't draw it when you need to, and if you don't draw it when Swords is on the field, it's kind of dead. I think it's especially good here, though, because it can deal with your opponent's tribal strategies. For instance, this can pop a field spell, it can pop an equip spell on an opponent's monster, and this deck can struggle against other tribal strategies. Sure, your monsters can get over a Great White buffed with Umi if they're buffed with their equip spell, but your opponent having like 6 1800s in the deck, if they're playing Umi Beatdown, can make running all these 1600s a bit rough. And also, if your opponent's playing like Invigoration Tribal, buffing up their Battle Oxes, then the Battle Oxes that are buffed up can get over your 1600 monsters that are buffed up. So I think that D-Spell can serve well both against stall decks and against other tribal decks. And that's why we're playing 2 in the side deck. But that is the deck. I think it's really cool. Again, credit to Hexproof Project for the great deck. And let's see how it serves us. Hopefully it will be a bit better than the last time we played Dark Equip. Okay, we've got a game against Sumo Kami, and, you know, just like the game I showed off, I think 2 videos ago against Pack Attack, this is someone I haven't shown off on the channel before, and, like, it's just great to see this because it seems like new people are getting involved in Yugi-Kaiba format, and that's always great to see. New blood in the format means new ideas coming out, and also just more people to play with, so, I'm very happy that we've got a new player on the channel here. We, of course, are playing Dark Equip. Unsure what they're playing, but we'll find out. And they are going to go first here, it looks like. This is, this is a good hand if we draw a monster, but if we don't draw a monster, it's kind of rough. You're going to pot, summon out Lodgin, set 2, pass back to us. If we draw a monster, this is great, especially if we draw, like, you know, a dark monster. We could equip with sword, potentially get over the Lodgin, or we could just summon out a monster, Fisher their Lodgin. That's not a monster. So, I mean, at least we have a way to deal with the Lodgin, but it's kind of unfortunate. We're just going to set 3 and pass. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. We don't really have a way to deal with that. We're just going to set 1. We could have Raigeki'd it, but I don't think it's necessary at this point. They're going to flip it up into Trap Master. Okay, you know, it's long odds, but if they pick the Fisher, we're feeling pretty good about that. Unfortunately, they do pick probably the best trap we've got, Trap Hole. So, oh, especially when they summon out Summon Skull. Damn. That's very unfortunate. We're going to have to take 2,500 here. Not the best. We do draw a monster, so we can summon that out. And then if we Fisher away their Summon Skull, we can get in for damage. We could actually equip Sword of Dark Destruction here in case they bring out another monster to attack over it. We do have reinforcements, though, so we can bait them into getting rid of one of their monsters by using a reinforcements. This is kind of bad if one of their sets is reinforcements, but we're going to risk it. We're going to attack in for 16, and we're just going to set Raigeki as a bluff. We could have set Sword of Dark Destruction as a bluff, but it's more likely that we're going to use Raigeki sooner than Sword of Dark Destruction. They're going to bring out a Battle Ox, try attacking in. We will reinforcements in the damage step, and looks like they don't have a reinforcement of their own, or they're not willing to use it. They're going to Swords, which is kind of rough for us. Pass back to us. We could fire our swords now. I think we're going to wait, though, because if they don't have a monster to follow up that swords with, then our man-eating treasure chest is safe. And we can always activate swords after they bring out a monster. They do have a monster, so we are going to lose our man-eating treasure chest, unfortunately. We could have equipped Sword of Dark Destruction preemptively to try and play around this sort of eventuality. But if they've got like a Fisher, and I don't think, yeah, they haven't used up a Fisher yet. If they've got a Fisher, then we'd basically be losing 2 cards for the price of 1. So we'll save the sword. We've got plenty of other targets in the deck that we can hopefully use it on later. We're just going to activate swords of our own now since we don't have a clean out to the Lodgin. And they've got D-Spell, so that's kind of unfortunate for us. We are going to take 18 here. Nothing we can really do about that. They're going to set another pass back to us. Pot of Greed's a pretty good draw. Okay. Okay, we're going to bring out Lodgin. At least they have to use some form of removal on this. And they're thinking about it, and they will use a form of removal. So, you know, we traded 1 for 1 with that. If they bring out another monster to try and attack in for game, we do have a Boku, and we can follow it up with a Raigeki. So, not the worst. They're going to bring out a monster and try and go for game. And we will just fire the Woboku now. And, ooh, that's a pretty decent draw. So we've got a couple options here. We don't necessarily have to use Raigeki. we can reborn back their summoned skull, attack over one of their monsters, Fisher the other away. We can save Raigeki then for if they set a monster afterwards or something like that. So I think that's what we are going to do. We're just going to reborn their skull and attack in. The unfortunate thing about this plan is if we pull it off, if they have like Change of Heart and another monster, then we are in a pretty bad situation. If they have like Monster Reborn plus a Fisher plus another monster, then we're again in a bad situation. So this is a bit risky, but I think we have to do it. You know, any play that we do is going to be a risk. So we're just going to take the risk. They do Waboku, which honestly we're not too upset about because, again, we do have the Raigeki here to clear their board anyways. It's just we would have liked to have saved the Raigeki for a set, but nothing we can do about that now. They're going to Fisher away the Summoned Skull, set 1, pass back to us. Lojin's pretty good. We'll bring out the Lojin, and we're just going to attack into that set. Now, we could have equipped it with Sword of Dark Destruction, just in case it's a defender, but if it's like a Man-Eater bug, then we've just wasted Sword of Dark Destruction. So we're going to save the sword for a better time. It is a Wall of Illusion. We're just going to reinforcements to get over that, bounce the Lojin back to hand, and then pass back to them. We could have saved the reinforcements, summoned out the Lojin next turn, equipped Sword of Dark Destruction, got rid of the wall that way. But I mean, that's just a bit more risky in my opinion. Like, if they've got a Reborn to bring back the Summoned Skull, switch the wall to attack, then we just lose. And, I mean, we can just sit on the sword. We've got a Lojin in hand to pair with it for next turn if we need it. So, we will, you know, just do this. And I think this is the right play. They're going to set another pass back to us. We're going to do the same thing that we did before. If it's a defender, it's kind of worse for us because we can't get over it with reinforcements. But again, if it's a Man-Eater, we don't want to waste the Sword of Dark Destruction. And it is a Man-Eater, so that will pop our Lojin. We'll just set the reinforcements we just drew, pass back to them. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. Swords is a decent draw. There's actually a good argument to be made for firing the swords now. So if they have like a Reborn and another monster, then we do just lose here. I don't think that they've got another monster or Reborn, or else I think they would have fired it last turn. But it is a bit of a risk to not activate swords here. I'm going to take that risk just because, you know, if they don't draw any monsters or anything to do with this board, then we're feeling pretty good about that. And we don't have like a super high risk of death. It's just if they draw a couple cards, then we could potentially lose here. But let's see what they do. They're just going to set 1, pass back to us. And we draw Worm Beast, which is pretty decent. We figure that's probably like a Man-Eater or another flip monster. So we're just going to activate Sword, flip it up, see what it is. It is a Trap Master, and luckily they target the spell that we have set. So, whew, we did manage to dodge the Trap Master effect there, which is very nice. We can bring out Worm Beast, attack into it, clear it, and then pass back to them. This is pretty decent. Worm Beast dodges like a Fisher if they have one. And we can just keep getting in for damage each turn if they don't have monsters to bring out. And it looks like they don't this turn, so that's pretty good. We're going to summon out Worm Beast, attack in. Deal another 1400, set 1, pass back to them. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. Man-Eater's a good draw for later if we need it. If they bring out another monster, we can just set the Man-Eater instead of bringing out Wicked Worm Beast. We'll attack in with Wicked Worm Beast, pass back to them. And they're going to activate swords of their own, kind of unfortunate. We will just set Man-Eater. Hopefully they'll think that we set Wicked Worm Beast to, you know, sort of safeguard against if they had a monster. It's kind of unfortunate if they have like a Change of Heart, then, you know, that's kind of rough for us. But it would be, I think, rougher for us if they had Change of Heart with Wicked Worm Beast, because then they could potentially get in for a lot of damage. So either way, I think setting the bug is correct. They're going to set 1, pass back to us, and we draw Change of Heart. So now we have a choice to make. We can either Change of Heart, expecting that it's a flip monster, because they haven't used up many Man-Eater bugs yet. And they might be on 3 Trap Master as well. You never know. So if it's a flip monster, which is not unlikely given the amount of flip monsters they seem to be running, then Change of Heart could be a very good card here. But we do have Maneater Bug just to pop whatever they have set anyways. And we might want to save Change of Heart for when they don't have swords up and we can get in for a fair amount of damage. So we are going to flip up the bug, pop the wall, and then just pass back to them. We don't need to bring out Wicked Worm Beast. I guess we could to bait out like a trap hole potentially, but like I value the Wicked Worm Beast more in hand because we don't have a monster to follow it up with. So we'll leave the Man-Eating Bug in attack mode. It's kind of rough if they have a monster to attack into it with. Then we could be taking a fair amount of damage here. But we do have a trap hole in the worst case scenario. And if they don't have a monster to bring out to attack it, then we can just switch it back to defense, and that's pretty good too. They'll set one, pass back to us, and now again we have the same sort of dilemma. Do we Change of Heart it, expecting that it's a flip monster, or do we just let it be? You know, if it's a Man-Eater Bug, we might actually want to set the Wicked Worm Beast, because now we do have a Battle Ox, so we can bait them like getting rid of a Wicked Worm Beast, having a defensive monster on field, and you know, if they try to make a huge offensive push, we do have the trap hole to stop a normal summon. So we're going to think about it for a bit, and we are just going to switch Bug to defense, set Wicked Worm Beast to try and bait out something, and then we're just going to set the Change of Heart as a bluff. We figure that, you know, our back row is clogged, but we're probably going to use up at least one of these cards next turn. So we're not too upset about that. And here we get majorly punished because that was a flip monster and it was a Stern Mystic. So if you've never seen this card is used, well, in some Last Will decks and also in a deck called like Back Row Control, which is basically a deck that aims to figure out what your opponent has set and then use things like Trap Master or Arm Ninja or D-Spell to just get rid of your opponent's back row before they can use it. It's a deck that I have not covered on the channel before because I think it's a bit jank for my taste. I don't think it's very good, but I will be featuring another duel with that deck on the channel later with a special guest star. So get excited for that. But you get a bit of a sneak peek here, seeing how back row control works with Sumo Kami's take of the deck. So this is majorly punishing. Now they know our entire back row lineup, and they also know that we have a Wicked Worm Beast set, so this isn't anything to really worry about. And that's really rough. We could actually trap hole here potentially, just in case they like have a Raigeki and they have a Reborn just to go in for game because they know we don't have Waboku. I figure I'll save the trap hole for a bigger monster because I do have Battle Ox in hand to potentially clear the Stern Mystic. But that's kind of rough. They reveal that they have a Fisher and a Waboku, which is also pretty rough for us because this means that if they do manage to clear our board and we bring out Battle Ox attacking the Stern Mystic, they can just Waboku it and then Fisher away our Battle Ox. And we're in a pretty rough spot. We do have Fisher to deal with Stern Mystic, but we don't really want to use Fisher to deal with Stern Mystic. So that's kind of unfortunate. They know our entire board, basically, which means that they can play around it accordingly. They're just going to attack into the Worm Beast with the Stern Mystic, which I think is correct. And then they're going to set 3 and pass back to us. Since they know about the Dark Hole, we're just going to fire the Dark Hole because, I mean, I don't want to have to deal with whatever their set is. They know our back row entirely. If it's like a Trap Master, they can snipe our Trap Hole, which would be pretty rough for us. And if it's a bug, they can pop one of our monsters. So we're just going to Dark Hole that preemptively. And it looks like it's a bug, so we're feeling pretty happy about that. We're going to bring out Battle Ox here, attack in, poke in for 17, and then set the Sword of Dark Destruction as a bluff because we want to introduce one element that they don't know. Maybe this will disincentivize them from going for lethal if they have it, if it's a bit risky. But we want to just have the potential unknown that could be like a Waboku or something in the back row to surprise them potentially. They do have Reborn, which is unfortunate. If they have like Fisher here and they've got 2 reinforcements, then that's really rough for us. If they have Change of Heart here, then that's also rough for us. They can just attack in for game. But it looks like they don't, so luckily we're just going to take 800 here. They'll pass back to us. We are just going to bring out Ryukishin Powered and then Fisher away their 7th Skull. They do know about the Fisher anyways. And we're just going to attack in. We don't feel the need to Sword of Dark Destruction here. If they bring out a monster that can beat over Ryukishin Powered, then we can Trap Hole it because they've already used Monster Reborn. If they Change of Heart are Ryukishin Powered and it's equipped with Sword of Dark Destruction, and they have some additional reinforcements, then we could just lose the game from that. So we're going to play it safe. This is lethal if it connects, and it won't connect because they have Wuboku, which we knew about. But we'll pass back to them. They're going to Fisher away our Ryukishin Powered, summon out Stern Mystic, and we are just going to Trap Hole that because we potentially have game here if they don't have a Wuboku, because we can summon out Wall of Illusion, attack in, potentially use reinforcements to get that last bit of damage. And that is what we're going to try to do. And it does connect, so we are going to be able to reinforcements for game. And wow, that was an intense one. As I said, I don't think back row control is the best deck in the format, but it really put up a good showing there, I think. Very close duel. It could have easily gone either way if either of us had drawn just slightly differently in the end game there. But that was a good game one. We didn't get to pull off our Sword of Dark Destruction combo. Unfortunately, we had it in hand multiple times. There just wasn't the most opportune time to use it. But maybe we'll get to pull it off game 2. So let's see how that goes. We're going to basically keep the deck the same. Not really siding in anything or out of anything. So let's see how it goes. Okay, this is a decent opener. We've got 2 decent monsters. We've got a very good trap lineup. I'm feeling pretty good about that. They're going to bring out a Lodgin. Kind of unfortunate we don't get to Trap Hole them. If we had gone first, we could have done that, but we'll have to find some other way to deal with the Lodgin here. Oh, and they're going to Card Destruction. Damn, that's a pretty bold play, but I respect it. If we had any like power spells or something, this would have sniped them out immediately. Unfortunately for them, we did not, and we actually draw into 2 of our power spells, Pot of Greed and Change of Heart. Unfortunately, we don't have an easy out to lodge in still. We do draw Sword, if only we had these Fiends to go with it. But unfortunately, we do not. Battle Ox is a decent draw. Let's see if we draw any more decent draws off this Pot of Greed. That's pretty good. Now we do have a way actually to out the Lodgin. We'll bring out Battle Ox, and that does survive, so we are going to Fisher away their monster, attacking for 17, and then just set 2, pass back to them. We set the Sword of Dark Destruction as a bluff because we know that they're on like Stern Mystic and stuff. So if they do Stern Mystic to see our back row, they're not seeing like a power spell like Change of Heart or something. Now, as a note, it's a bit risky to do this maybe because they could have another Card Destruction on the way, and if they Card Destruction away the Change of Heart, that's kind of rough for us. But I don't know. I think this is fine. If they use a Card Destruction this early again, then at least they're only hitting 1 powered spell. So they're going to Reborn back the Lodgin, which is a pretty good sign for us. It means that they likely don't have many monsters in hand. We're just going to reinforcements, try and get rid of that Lodgin, and it does succeed. So this feels very good. They do have a Fisher to deal with the Battle Ox, but I think we're in a very good spot. We read that they probably don't have many more monsters, so we're just going to bring out Wall of Illusion and attack in. We could equip it with Sword of Dark Destruction here, just get in a little bit more damage, because, if we're able to consistently beat in with Wall of Illusion here, then we could just win the game a bit sooner. But, I think that's a bit greedy. They could just Fisher away our wall if they can't attack over it, so I'm not going to get greedy. I'm just going to set this Trap Hole to protect the wall and pass back to them. They're going to bring out a monster. We're just going to Trap Hole it, try and keep them off monsters. Waboku's also great. That can also pretty much keep them off a monster. If they summon out something to attack into the wall, we can just Waboku, protect the wall, bounce that monster back to hand, attack in for even more damage. So wall beats can be very threatening. They're just going to pass back to us, and we'll just keep beating in with the wall. We could have activated Reborn here to get a bit more damage on board, but we don't need to overcommit. This is serving us very well, and we'll set the Reborn just to dodge around like a card destruction or something, but we're feeling pretty good about this. They're going to swords, and this is great for us. We get to make them use up the swords when we don't have the most defensive threats on the field, and we can just switch wall to defense, and that can be tough for them to deal with. And we also have another wall in hand if they manage to clear our first one. So we're feeling very good about this. They're going to bring out a Lodgin. They're going to Fisher away our wall and just attack in for 18. We are perfectly fine taking that. We are still at very high life points. And now we have a couple options here. We could summon out Ryukishin Powered, equip it with Sword of Direct Destruction. It's not the most likely they have Fissures since they've already used up 2. But I think the safer play is just to set a Maneater Bug or Wall of Illusion. It's a bit iffy which one we want to set. If we set Maneater Bug, that could be susceptible to like a Change of Heart, and that would be really unfortunate for us. I don't know. It's tough to say. We're going to set the Bug and just hope they don't have Change of Heart. Hope that this Bug can deal with the Lodgin. And they do have Change of Heart, so they will be able to pop the Bug, get in for another 18. Kind of unfortunate there. They're just going to set one pass back to us. We figured that the only reason that they'd set one is if they had like a flip monster. So we are just going to Change of Heart that, flip it up, and it is a flip monster. So we are going to use their Maneater Bug to pop the Lodgin. Poetic Justice. You know, they Change of Heart our Maneater Bug. We Change of Heart their Maneater Bug. And then we're just going to set this wall. This is a bit of a risky play because they do attack into it with a monster and then leave their Maneater Bug to attack into it again. Then they can get the Maneater Bug back into hand to be able to use it again. I would honestly be okay with that because they would take 1,400 points of damage and they're already very low. So honestly, even if they do get the Bug back, we'd get them low enough where I think it's worth it. But that's a big if. They might not have a monster to do that with. And yeah, they're just going to switch the Bug to defense, and we feel very good about that. We're going to bring out Maneater Treasure Chest, flip up the wall, attack into their Bug with the wall, and then just attack indirectly with Maneater Treasure Chest. This is maybe playing into mass board removal like a Dark Hole or Raigeki, but we do have another monster in hand to follow it up with. We've got a Monster Reborn to follow it up with, and we've got like Waboku if they make a super aggressive push. We've got swords to stall for a bit longer. Like, we've got many, many ways to stay in this game if they do use board removal. So we're feeling very good about this. They do have board removal. They're going to Dark Hole our board, and then they're just going to set one pass back to us. We could potentially try and go for game here. If we activate swords to flip it up to see what it is, first of all, if it's a bug, it will pop itself. We can bring out a Wicked Worm Beast, try and attack in for game. If they trap hole, we've got Reborn to back it up. If it's a Trap Master, that's a bit unfortunate. They could potentially pop one of our cards. But, like, the only trap we have is Waboku, which, honestly, we wouldn't be too upset losing if we've got swords up already. If it's, like, a Defender, we can bring out a Fiend from our, like, a Lodgin from our graveyard. With Reborn, equip it with Sword of Dark Destruction, get over it, try and summon out a Wicked Worm Beast to go for game. There are just many different ways to do this, and so we're just going to go for it. We activate swords. It is a defender. We are going to bring out Wicked Worm Beast. That's fine by them. And if that's not a Waboku, this will be the end of the game. It's kind of risky, though. They haven't used up any Wabokus over the course of it, but we just got to go for it. It's lethal if that's not a Waboku, so we're going to equip Sword to our Lodgin, attack into the wall, and that will be enough. Seems like that was not a Waboku. It was just a D-spell. So they were not able to win this one. And, you know, we only pulled off the Sword of Direct Destruction combo at the very end. But it did come in useful here, you know, it did enable us to actually push through and win the game. We might not have been able to get over that wall otherwise. So, I mean, it came up and it did very well. And playing all these 1600 beaters actually did come into play as well because it enabled us to keep up offensive pressure, just keep going on the aggressive, and pressure our opponent to a point where we were actually able to win. So I thought these were some really good games. Back row control put up a lot better of a fight than I expected it to. But, at the end of the day, I think the star of the show was this dark equip strategy. Just maxing out on swords, maxing out on dark monsters. And we were theoretically able to pull off the combo in both games. We just chose not to do it in game 1 because it wasn't necessary. But game 2 it was, and we managed to win with it. So I think that this deck is pretty sick. Do I think it's the best deck in the format? No. I still think it's got problems that I mentioned in the previous video covering it. And, some of those problems are mitigated a bit, like your combo is online more of the time. But some of the issues, like, being very weak to your opponent's big monsters, are still definitely present in the deck. But, every deck has its pros and cons. So I think that this is probably the better version of the deck to play than the previous version that I showed off. So thank you very much to Hexproof Project for providing this deck list. I had a blast playing it, and if you're interested in the deck, you should definitely try out this version over my previous version. But that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed as always. If you liked this video, then be sure to actually, physically like the video on YouTube. And also, if you want to be notified when I release more videos like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. We recently reached 100 subscribers, which is really exciting to me. And, I'm really excited to see how far we can climb. The next milestone, I think, would be like 150. I think it would be really cool if this month we could get up to like 150 in October. That would be really dope. But I wanted to make this video to sort of like give back to y'all. I really appreciate it when you all comment on these videos and let me know what you liked, let me know what you don't like, let me know your thoughts on how you would build the decks, because I think that, there's a lot of different ways to build these, and I'm definitely not a perfect deck builder, so I love hearing your thoughts, and those discussions can build a wonderful deck like this. And so this is really awesome. So thank you, of course, again to Hexproof Project. And thank you again to all my subscribers. And also, everyone who watches these videos, even if you're not subscribed. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to playing more decks on the channel that come from the comments section in the future. But that's going to do it for this video. Until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.